We drink tequila. We talk.
Welcome to Team Tequila Talks.
Oh, there we go.
Boom.
Okay, so we're gonna make our cocktail today, but we have to start off every Team Tequila Talks with a cheers. So I'm actually gonna pour a little sipper in my copita, and if you are familiar with copitas, you know that means that we are probably drinking what today, Sheri?
Mezcal.
Cheers.
Cheers. I am drinking a mezcal. Look at that puppy.
Old
Gorgeous.
Fashioned, which is
Mezcal.
what I'm going to attempt to make right now. And we're going to kind of watch the process of this.
Yes.
And you are listening to Team Tequila Talks with Cassandra Jean Mel and Sheri Gonzalez. No guests today. We're taking it back to the OG crew with Sheri and Cassandra. And we are getting into a little mezcal because we haven't really covered mezcal that much lately, I feel. We had our friends over at Del Maguey come on, and we don't really discriminate when it comes to tequila. I think we appreciate all types of tequila, including mezcal.
As long as it's 100% agave, we do discriminate against tequilas.
That's true. You're right.
We-
Good correction there. Good catch.
Yes. We don't drink any and everything.
That is
Wait, what are you
true.
putting in your mezcal? What are
Okay,
you making?
So
Old-fashioned.
you've already got your mezcal old-fashioned. And I am going to make one. And frankly, I used to make bourbon old-fashions all the time. And then as I started drinking more and more tequila, I actually was not really making the old fashions as much. Sometimes when I go to a steakhouse, I'll get an old fashioned. I am more a bourbon girl than a rye girl. Not that there's anything wrong. And if someone has an amazing cocktail, I'm totally down to have rye instead of bourbon. Maybe that's the Southern in me, I guess. I don't know.
It is because and growing up in LA, bourbon and whiskey there really isn't a winter. I just feel like you need a winter for that.
Like a hot toddy, but
Like
from the
hot
inside, like
toddy.
it's warming your inside. Even if the cocktail itself isn't hot, it has the hot toddy effect. It's
yes.
warming the inside. Okay, so I was trying to think. Did I normally shake them? Did I normally stir them? And the jury's kind of out on the best way to do an old fashioned. You can shake it. You can stir it. To me, this is really the defining factor of a great steakhouse is that they know how to make an awesome old fashioned and or Manhattan. I mean, really, you should be able to make both at a steakhouse.
You should be able to.
You're in New York. New York has some classic, iconic steakhouses. So you should maybe make that some of your homework.
Peter Luger, we just went there the other night, which is old. I mean, that's like the mob went there. You're talking about the Rat Pack used to go there. I mean, we were there the other day and they still have, which I appreciate, the old school kind of gangster vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And the front door guy is still kind of like, spotting the riffraff type of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at the photos around there. I mean, Frank Sinatra. I mean,
Yeah.
Gotti. I mean, you're looking around and they do I had a Manhattan there because the guy was like, you need to have one. I also had an old fashioned, which
I
was
like a good
amazing.
Manhattan.
He told me to have the Manhattan with my tomato and mozzarella appetizer, which is very weird because you're
Oh.
like, it's like the burrata with the tomato slices and the basil.
Right. Is that one of those kind of tricks that, I don't know, is that a trick that we should know about?
He just said, get it in you. He kept saying to get it in you.
Oh.
It's what he kept saying. I was
Oh.
like, get in me what? And he's like, get into the fun of drinking heavy with your apps.
Yeah.
Now we just had a metabolic expert. So now I'm thinking, shit, the mozzarella is fat.
Yeah.
Eating a little more fat with
It's
this.
true, but in mozzarella you've also got carbohydrates and protein, so it's actually balanced. It's not like it's low fat, but it definitely checks all the boxes of your macros if you're going to eat dairy,
Totally. And I had Manhattan. I had a and he made me a Negroni, like a Brooklyn style Negroni, which I love a Negroni. I usually on every vacation in my night with a Negroni. More than I
Okay.
would like a Manhattan or old fashioned.
So I'm going to go with stirring here. I'm making an executive decision. I don't
Yeah,
like
be
the-
James Bond about it. James
way.
Bond says
I've
no. He
got
says
my-
shaken, not stirred. Yeah.
This is shaken, not stirred. Well,
Not
I'm not going to
stirred.
shake this one. I just feel like we do a lot of shooken beverages on this show.
It's
Um,
true.
But what I am going to do is sort of massage this orange peel because You can smell everything come out of it, and that I think really releases the same way we always talk about with herbs, how you kind of want to slap them or massage them or scrunch them up in your hands. That's what I'm going to do with this orange peel right now. I am going to do just the faintest hint of like just a little squeeze of orange because mezcal is a little bit different than bourbon because bourbon has this undertone of sweetness, and I don't ever find that to really be the case with mezcal. I've got my organic blue agave on standby. I feel like my little squirt of orange juice is going to cover it.
Right.
So I am going to add my bitters, which that's kind of what makes an old fashioned, I feel like, is a little bit of orange, a little bit of bitters, and I'm using orange bitters in this case. So really it's a lot of orange things happening here. Okay. So this is kind of lazy because, I mean, it's really only, let's see. Why is yours brown?
Okay. Wait, how does yours need more agave? Is it sweet enough?
Well, I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to let you know in a second.
Okay. So I'm at this hotel in Brooklyn and I went to the bartender and I'm like, look, I have a tequila podcast. And usually when you tell a bartender you have a podcast about a specific spirit, they get really freaking excited. And this guy is from Ireland. And I'm like, look, I need a mezcal old fashioned. And he's like, oh, you're speaking my language.
Oh.
I mean, he didn't say it that way, but I can't do an Irish accent.
That did not sound even a little bit Irish, Sheri.
It sounded more Game of Thrones, but you get my drift.
Kind of more Vikings. He told me, like,
yes, more. It sounds more Viking. So he said he's now serving his own old-fashioned batch. So it has Angostura and orange zest in it. Mm-hmm. He uses a mixture of brown sugar with water. He does half water, half sugar.
So that's more or less a simple syrup.
Yep, he reduces it and strains it, then throws in orange slices, lemon slices, and he kind of lets that cook down and gets that orange kind of pulp. He's like the pulp has to like pull away from the orange, and then he simmers it, then strains it again. Oh. And then he used this Mezcal Union, which he was pushing. He was like, if you're going to use a mezcal, make it be Union because they're small batched. They're profit sharing with their farmers. So they basically they're micro distilleries all around different parts. They have 9 regions in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And they basically go to these agave farms and they say, hey, look, we want to partner with you. And we promise if you batch this mezcal for us, we make a legal contract with you that we say we're going to come back and buy it once it's done. So they share in the finished profit. That way, the people who are growing this are not employees. They are actually co-owners.
That's amazing. That sounds kind of similar to what Del Maguey does as well, where they have all of their individual mezcals because they go to these individual towns and these individual tribes and they work with the people of the town. It's not that they just have a farm somewhere with a bunch of employees.
Which I think, and he said karmically, which he's speaking my language. He was like, karmically, I don't really work with certain mezcal companies. And he's a tequila guy too. And I'm like, you're Irish and you love tequila? He's like, well, yeah, I live in New York City. Everyone drinks tequila now.
That's true.
It's true. And I love it.
We're at the forefront of a movement.
Yeah. So what they do is not only do they ask them to grow it, they actually make another investment so they can hire more workers to keep up with their kind of like output. Cause you need to have like production to serve the population. So they basically guaranteed, and they're sustainable. Love that. It's like this company, Mezcal Union, look them up, guys. They average about 25 times more than other working models for tequila because they have so many different farm micro distilleries all around Mexico.
So Union doesn't sound like a mezcal brand. I gotta be honest, but it
Mezcal
sounds like
Union.
It sounds like a cool company. It just doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like a lot of the tequila and mezcal brands that are out there that are definitively Mexican,
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like it says the union. Like I get the word union because they're more like unionizing, what's the definition of union? It's like to come together, collaborate. Togetherness. So I get it. But when he showed me the bottle, I was like, oh, I've never heard of this company. And he's like, well, I'm going to give it to you. You're going to use it today on your podcast. And my name is Eric, by the way. Give me a shout out. So
shout out to Eric in Brooklyn.
Shout out to Eric in Brooklyn, who was very excited to make me this and the brown sugar, I will say, and the orange and everything.
Yeah.
And he did massage my peel, but he said, you're going to get the flavors of, and it actually, to be honest, it tastes like I can't tell if it's mezcal or bourbon in this.
Oh, That's
So,
impressive.
and that's, I
That's
was
some
like,
fancy
and
bar making skills.
I saw him pour it in and I'm like, it tastes, he was like, that's why. He's like,
That's why.
mezcal is for the bourbon drinkers, the whiskey drinkers.
Yeah.
He's like, cause you can kind of bring out the notes. So I love it.
We've talked about that before. Absolutely. That there's definitely a bridge between mezcal and whiskey, for sure. And that is a good transition for people that might be whiskey drinkers. I think that the brown sugar element is interesting. That's clearly what makes yours brown. Normally, when I have an actual old fashioned with bourbon, I like to light the orange peel on fire with a match because I think it gives it, especially with the bourbon, I find that it gives it kind of a nice smoky undertone. I wouldn't do that with mezcal because mezcal already has that kind of fiery, smoky because of the way that it's produced. For those of you who have not heard us talk about mezcal before on the show, mezcal is made by taking these agave plants and putting them in these giant ovens, a lot of them underground, and they basically char and charcoal the agave and turn that product into the mezcal, which gives it its smoky flavor. I am drinking Gem and Bolt mezcal. Gem and Bolt is a really cool brand right in line with my hippie ideals. They are two women owned, that own a very artsy brand. And the reason they call it Gem and Bolt is because there was an urban legend that lightning came down from the gods and struck the agave plant into the heart of the agave, and the nectar that was produced was this mezcal. So that is right on brand with what we're talking about here.
I like that story. And honestly, it could be a total lie, but I believe that.
It could be a lie, but aren't all urban legends a little bit of a lie, a little bit myth, a little bit truth, a little bit of, embellished storytelling?
I guess so. I mean, the name Jim and Bolt, whenever I see them in the store, my eye goes right to them because it's a solid white label. But the Jim and Bolt makes it seem like it's like party fun. It just,
Yeah.
the name, it just pops.
It
It has like a little gem in which it's like fancy, but like aggressive.
Yeah,
it's like Jim and a Bolt.
It's like they did a minimalist design, but with intention. Like they really decided to make it artsy. They are artists, and I believe they're from the Bay Area. And they obviously the mezcal itself is produced in Mexico, but they do something really unique here. They add damiana. Are you familiar?
Damiana, what is Damiana?
So
I feel like I've
damiana
heard of it.
is like the OG CBD. It is actually technically the plant itself, a mild psychedelic, super mild. Have you heard of kava? K-A-V-A,
The wine?
kava? No, not C-A-V-A, the Spanish sparkling wine. Kava, I'm probably saying this wrong. Kava, it's K-A-V-A. I've had it before, and it is basically supposed to give you, it's like taking a heavy dose of CBD. It makes you feel nice and warm and relaxed and comfy, maybe a little sexually frisky. There's an aphrodisiac element to it.
We love an aphrodisiac element.
We do, and we've talked about aphrodisiacs before and kind of did our own little Mythbusters episode on that previously, if you want to go back and check that out. But damiana it's a plant, and you can take it by capsule, you can take it by tea with the leaves, you can take the essential oil from it. But it is technically, the plant itself falls into the mild psychedelic category, and most people take it as an aphrodisiac or to alleviate sexual irregularities or sexual mood. And the jury's still out, but a lot of people have reported back with 2 thumbs up.
So basically, if you're on a downward slope of sexual activity.
Yeah, or maybe
desire.
like you're coming back from having a kid, or like your cycle has been off because of diet, travel, medical, whatever. By the way, this says some studies have shown that the plant results in heightened sexual satisfaction and performance in both men and women. So maybe a lot of people also take it for stress, mild depression, stomach ailments, increased energy, and general wellness and positivity. So this is a supplement that it sounds a lot like CBD to me, but it's almost like...
But it's in your tequila.
It's
like double the benefits there.
Yeah.
And also I feel like, look, I have some nice little oils. I think you turned me on to one of the oils we brought. They're like a vaginal health oil that has a little bit of CBD
the uni
in it.
oil, yeah.
Yeah.
I like
and I
that
feel
guy.
like, yes, I love that guy. That guy is actually good. Look, I'll tag them on here for people to know. It's a great vaginal health oil. It has a little bit of CBD, I believe, in it.
And it also comes from basically I don't know if it's a byproduct or the base of mushrooms, the same type of
Yes.
mushrooms that you would put in your coffee or smoothie. I don't know if it's a lion's
Ashwagandha.
mane, ashwagandha,
It's
or reishi. Like, I don't know which type of mushrooms, but it is from a company that makes mushroom blends.
the psychedelic. I think people hear the word psychedelic and I
Mhm.
think of like someone tripping out of their mind. Just the word psychedelic itself just means to me someone's losing their shit. So
Right,
I
you
think
immediately think of someone tripping on acid, right? And that's not
100%.
what that's not what this is. People have been taking damiana for hundreds of years. This dates back to the Mayans and the Aztec or Aztecans, Aztecs, the Aztecs, right?
It's not
So
Aztecans.
it's
Aztecans.
Listen,
I
I
don't
don't know
know.
if it would be an episode of Team Tequila Talks if we didn't Google something, but this is the Aztecs and the Mayans. They have been taking this. They have been making tea, and this has a lot of medicinal and herbal properties, and it has for hundreds of years. It's been around for longer than tequila has, longer than mezcal has. So there is this big blow up of beverages on the market that have tequila, or not even tequila, just sort of a CBD alcohol blend. In fact, I actually haven't seen many with tequila. I think because that tequila board is usually so strict that it's probably hard to just willy-nilly be like, here's a canned margarita with a little bit of CBD in it. They probably are controlling that a little bit more.
Yeah, because I imagine the fermentation process. Like, how do you get the CBD infused? That fermentation, that delicate process that you have to go through to make it tequila, I would bet would probably be an issue for them. But this one, Jim and Bolt says tequila on the bottle, doesn't it?
It says mezcal with damiana added, and it is
Where is it? What
100%
region?
agave, mezcal joven with damiana added, hecho in Mexico.
Yeah,
So
there we go.
it doesn't specifically say. Oh, wait a minute. It's looking like San Felipe del Agua, Oaxaca, Mexico. That's the
Yeah,
address
it's
on here,
probably
but I don't know if that's just an importing place. That might not be the actual place of where they're producing it. Their logo here is Art and Plants Heal, which I like because that is taking a really balanced and holistic approach. If you're going to drink smarter and make sure that you're balancing it out and you're really kind of nourishing your soul and not just drinking. We talk a lot about balance here on Team Tequila Talks. So
Yeah, just I mean, I get it. Like, I get people who want to get shit faced. In our last podcast, we talked about that. But I genuinely like. My sister was like, my sister doesn't drink. She's not drinking. She's like, everything tastes like car oil. It smells. It's disgusting because she wants it to taste like fun. And I'm like, I genuinely
she
like
wants a
the
Boone's Farm.
taste of. She wants a Boone's Farm. She wants a strawberry pineapple colada chocolate banana margarita.
Yeah, she wants that
She wants.
neon
She doesn't
shit
want
by
it.
the side of the Vegas pool
Yes.
in the
Yes. She doesn't
yardstick.
want it to be exactly. She doesn't want anything to be. She always says to a bartender, she said this is like right hand of God. She goes, you know how people like it spirit forward? I like it spirit back. That's like her,
To each their own.
to each their own. But I genuinely like the flavor of alcohol. So when I see something like a Jim and Bolt where they're saying like it's infused, I'm like, well, let me just taste this on the rocks first just to taste what it tastes like before I start mixing in like my oranges or
So it's interesting that you say that because I said that I had my agave on standby over here, which I do. I did not use it. I was pleasantly surprised because I had my agave here on the ready. So normally with an old fashioned, you're going to use simple syrup. Here at Team Tequila Talks, we sort of like to not use simple syrup because
no.
it's just white sugar. Basically, all simple syrup is white processed sugar that is boiled down with water. It's part water, part sugar. We have made our own syrups in the past with honey or maybe raw sugar. We have even done stevia before, just in case you're looking for a lower cal option. But I decided to just do a little squeeze of my orange that I used from my orange peel. And I massaged the oils out of the orange peel itself with a dash of orange bitters. And that is all I need for this old fashioned. Super simple, super clean. It's really good and incredibly smooth. I'm actually we're gonna have to add this to one of our regular rotations because
Yeah.
it is really good. And I was not that I doubted Gem and Bolt because I've actually been a fan of theirs for a while, but I was pleasantly surprised about the old fashioned aspect and how smooth and crisp it is because I don't know, maybe I'm just used to drinking a bourbon old fashioned, and you can really taste that whiskey. It's whiskey forward.
Oh, totally. And I think sometimes with tequila in general, other than the bourbons and the whiskeys, you get a drink with tequila. And I think sometimes, I know my husband's not a big tequila drinker. He loves margaritas, but he's like, I don't know if I like tequila on the rocks. It's not a jam, but he would
Mm,
drink bourbon or whiskey on the rocks. So I'm like, what
yeah.
flavor profiles are you picking up in he was like, I don't know, it just tastes more caramelly. So I gave him to remember the other day we were with Comos and we
Yeah.
tried their
I was just going to
Cristalino
bring that
with
up.
the yes. So it gave me an idea that day. What was it, yesterday? And I was like, oh my, you really tasted the vanilla just with the carbonation, whatever voodoo science that is.
Yeah.
It brought out the flavor. So I thought to myself with my husband, oh, I'm gonna give him like a nice añejo
Yeah.
and maybe add a little soda water to pick up
Just a
those
little soda.
caramel, vanilla. Yeah.
Plain soda, no flavor, no old fashioned soda. Because I feel like you and I, especially a lot of times when we're doing something quick and just want to do a quick and easy, we'll do a tequila soda with lime or grapefruit, and it just has those undertones. It's got 3-4 grams of sugar, if that, and it's just sort of like carbonated spa water, more or less. I actually have a Perrier right here that has essence of orange in it. So
That's all
just
you
like,
need. Look,
yeah,
that's all I tell people. I just got a DM the other day from a girl who watches the podcast, and she DM'd me on my personal Instagram, and she goes, "I feel so bad listening to the podcast. Sometimes you guys are anti-sugar." And I said, "No." I said, so I DM'd her back, and I said, "That is exactly what we're not. We're pro the right type of sugars."
100%.
And she goes, but she was from North Carolina, and she's like, "It is impossible." She's in college. Like, it is impossible to go to a bar here and ask for a margarita she's like, I said, she drank she bought some poppies. We did an episode about poppy sodas, which is a low sugar sparkling beverage with a Blanco tequila. And she said it was like, the guy was just like, you're going to want it sweeter. And she said, she felt like, wait, I don't know if I want it that sweet. So he brought her like a agave back just in case or a simple syrup back.
Yep.
And she was like, it was actually fine.
Yeah.
And she thought, and she was like, I'm like, no. So I told her we follow like a very clean diet in terms of our sugars. We're not going to go out and buy. Look, I was telling her, Cassandra makes brownies. You make great peanut butter square cup thingies. We use honey.
Yeah,
We
my
use
daughter's cooking
different
a lot
types
now
of sugar.
too, and she's just learning how to cook with honey and maple syrup because it's, maple syrup, it just comes straight out of the tree. So you're just removing a lot of when you are processing sugar, you are chemically altering the molecular structure of the plant. And that can be true with stevia too. You have to be kind of careful about the stevia that you are purchasing because a lot of times you'll pick up some liquid stevia and it'll have extra ingredients and natural flavors or even artificial flavors, which you don't want to mess with at all. But it's a business. Big Food is a business, and they are going to do whatever it takes to sell you a product. And it is up to you to read the labels and do your research. Period.
It's true. Period. And I know I started reading labels in college because I was a dance major and you got to stay in shape. And I
You're
was
an
like, why am
athlete,
I
yeah.
gaining? You're an athlete. I'm like, why am I gaining 10 pounds? And I was eating those little Nutra bars, like the little blueberry and strawberries. And my
My
dietitian
mom
said
used to pack
that.
me those for swim meets, and now
Yes.
retrospectively, it's like, and listen, the generation before us, they were just doing the best that they could. The food science didn't even exist yet.
No,
Food
and it said
science.
healthy. They marketed it and said healthy on the box. So your parents are like unhealthy.
Fun fact, that's not regulated at all. So if McDonald's wanted to, and they actually, I feel like have used healthy before, they could slap healthy on a Big Mac and no one's going to stop them. There is nothing there's no type of regulation from the FDA or otherwise that regulates the use of adjectives. So unless you are
1000%.
making a proper claim saying like, this Big Mac will reduce your cholesterol, this Big Mac will make you lose 20 pounds, you can't make an outright claim like that. And I remember a fun story. So, we obviously, my husband and I are involved in a winery, and our daughter does a wine every year. And since she was, I think, 2, she's always designed the label. She thinks it's really cool. She obviously does not understand what wine is, but she knows that this bottle arrives and it has her art on it. And she likes to describe what the art is and says on the back label. And she drew a label one year of a phoenix. was like super into Harry Potter and magic and all this stuff.
Love it.
And she drew a label. She wanted to draw it of like something Harry Potter specific. We said, trademarks, can't afford that. Just draw a phoenix. So she draws a phoenix, and she on the back it said, this bottle will give you superpowers, right? Got fully denied by the I think it's ATF that regulates the labels, because they said that we were making a claim, like a health medicinal claim, saying that if you drink this wine, you will have superpowers.
Well, like, yeah, I get that, because like you can't say this will cure your,
You cannot,
whatever, cancer, or this will cure your poor eyesight. I get that. I think labeling, I've gotten into this with a bunch of people, but labeling in the food industry is designed to be misleading. And I think majority of the people do not understand it's a business first before they ever would care about your health. And even when you go to the grocery stores, those are negotiated. Those end caps, what's in the health aisles, these are all negotiated with your big chain grocery stores. And they sit in a big round table and people pitch, I need to be next to the unsweetened Cheerios, and it's negotiated. So I feel like reading a label like fats, trans fats, carbohydrates, potassium, all that stuff is probably something everyone should look into, because you only have one body. And I think a lot of people always confuse people who love fitness or love health with like, oh, but it's easy for you. It's like, look, today passed by I'm in New York, a super soft serve, was it the truck, the ice cream truck? And it was a line, and I was like, oh, I want to get in that line. And Rick's like, get in the line. But then he's like, oh, gotta go to work. That line's like 20 minutes. I was going to give myself a white soft serve ice cream, which I probably will do tomorrow, but I'm not going to do that the whole time I'm here.
Right.
And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, you're fit, you're in shape, it's easy for you. It is just as hard for me than it is for anyone. I just self-discipline, which is something I literally tell everyone. You have got to tell yourself no when you become an adult, more than yes. Because, and I say this around just in general, not all the time, because there is a season for yes. But I say this because I feel like a lot of people tell themselves yes because you have agency over your own body, and you just feel like, I'm the president of this vessel. But disciplining yourself is probably one of the hardest things to do, because there's no mom to be like, do this or eat this way or eat your peas. It's just you. And I feel like there's a lot of power in telling yourself no.
Actually, well, there's also a lot of power in telling yourself yes. I mean, on our last episode, we talked about the power of yes and no. But I remember just sort of having a moment in my life where, having studied nutrition and knowing so much about nutrition, there's a lot of conflicting reports because, for example, intermittent fasting works differently for men and women because of hormones. Females have a hormonal cycle that resets every, I'm going to say 28 days. I personally am 32, but it varies by...
I'm like 22. I'm 22.
It varies woman to woman. But point is you look at a graph of female hormones and it's all over the place. Men, whoosh, just the same. So we have to do different types of workouts and different types of sleep and different types of recovery, and sometimes even different types of diet, more salt, less salt, more magnesium, more sugar, less sugar, whatever, based on where we are at in our cycle. Way more complicated. Not that, listen, men and women are just different. They are. And your hormonal cycles are going to be different. So you have to treat it as such. But the point is I remember hitting a point where I was feeling a little overwhelmed. There's so much nutrition advice out there. There are so many studies. And now that nutrition science has exploded, where do you start? And I remember feeling kind of overwhelmed, thinking like, oh, I've got to intermittent fast. So like no breakfast, but eat within the first hour of the day. Wait, what? Keto, macros, all of these nutrition things. And it's really, really hard to know where to start, for sure. And once I took a second and go, you know what? At your gut, at your core, you know that having a side salad is better than a bag of Lay's. So you got to start small, right? You got to start with, listen, I'm not aiming for perfection here, but I own my body. I control my body, and I have the freedom over my own body. 100%. No one else needs to smack a bag of artificial ingredients out of my hand. You can take a step in the right direction, and I own my body. No one is going to make me do anything I don't want to do. I'm an adult. I'm an autonomous adult.
Yes.
The freedom that comes with that.
It's true. And I feel like the more they say, that proverbial line in life. Like there's some people are like, I won't cross this line if I'm doing like drugs. I'm not going to take like these type of drugs, or I'm not going to cross this line and
Right. Like I smoke
sleep
weed,
with
but I
this.
don't do acid.
Exactly. There's always mentally, personally, everyone has that proverbial line. I feel like when it comes to food, the more you cross that line and start going, food is actually designed for you to cross the line and get more addicted to sugars, fats, and all those things. So the more you cross it, think about it, your palate can be changed, but it's probably one of the things people are like, I'm craving this. And, ladies around the lady times, I pretty much keep my house stocked with dark chocolate. I put it in the freezer because, or I do like, vegan, different ice creams, because when that time comes, let me tell you, my chips are not Lay's, but they're the healthier Lay's. They're like the paleo version,
You
or
have your
the,
salty crunchy.
yes. And I have my chocolate, I have my sweets, I have my smart sweets if I want some gummies, I have my Unreal candies if I want like a Snickers bar, because they have a great fake Snickers bar.
They
Unreal.
do. It's
It's
really good.
35% less sugar, and it's
Yeah, and
dark
they also
chocolate.
don't have any dyes or chemicals. You pick up a Snickers bar and you look at the label and you can't even pronounce all of the ingredients. It's got a bunch of
No.
crap in it. When you are looking at a label, what is your biggest red flag?
If I'm reading the
If
nutritional
you're reading a
aspects or
label, so
the
you're at the grocery store,
okay.
you pick up a food, you look at the label, and what makes you put the product back down? It's hard no.
There are 3 things I look for. The amount of fat, if it's not going to be like a buffalo mozzarella, like, because you know what you're getting into when you buy a buffalo mozzarella. I look at the fats, I look at the sugars, and I look at the ingredients. Now, there are some preservatives that are fine for very natural ingredients. So when people say, "Oh, ascorbic acid," I'm like, that's actually not a bad thing, because
It's not
it's
terrible. It's a vitamin C derivative. Yeah.
exactly. So I see that word, I'm not. But if I see a word like extra, I'm like, okay, I don't know what that word means. And if I have to Google it, usually 9 out of 10, I put it back on the
That's
shelf.
a no for you. I get it.
It's the no for me. What about you? What's the first thing you look
So
at?
mine, and this is actually something that I've even talked to my daughter about, and that she has done a great job with, really starting to learn her own nutrition labels. My big thing is anything artificial, because your body just doesn't know how to process it. So artificial colors, artificial flavors, artificial preservatives, those are going to be the big no-nos for me personally. Not that that's the only thing, but anything that is artificial, there's a reason why we have a lot of issues in the United States specifically, because a lot of things that are legal here are not legal anywhere else or in any other country. And it's so interesting because you and I have both spent a lot of time in the United States and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And even the time that we spent in Vancouver, you can drive to the United States in 30 minutes and you cannot buy the same products on either side of the border. You can't. They don't exist. They cannot be sold in Canada. They put their little French sticker over the label, but they will not let you import anything that has illegal coloring. So there's a lot of red, yellow, blue dyes, caramel coloring, all of that. It's not legal anywhere else. And there's all of these studies now coming out to show that they are carcinogenic when used for prolonged times. I'm gonna say prolonged times because listen, are
Well,
you
the
gonna
Skittles,
get cancer if you have one pack of Skittles? No.
right.
But if you pick up a pack of Skittles every time you go to the gas station, it's problematic.
And they're getting sued in California right now.
They sure
A
are.
mom,
They sure
she
are.
saw that they have all of these toxic, they're actually above the threshold. And you
Unfit
just
for
said
human consumption, I think was yeah.
Yes, and they are. And I think, snacks, like adult snacks, kid snacks. I'm always like, a snack doesn't have to kill you or be harmful, but it can still be tasty.
Mhm.
And I do understand there's an economical, level to this, where if you're in the store and at the checkout, they have all the gummy bears and the Snickers and the Reese's Pieces and that. And they usually put the Unreal candies in the more expensive aisle because it's not unexpensive.
Well, they're harder
But I
to
say
make.
this, they're harder to make, and they're not as like Hershey's company is bigger than, like, I don't know, AT&T. There's a Hershey. The
Well, it's
Hershey's is in
economies of
every
scale,
country.
right? So if
Yes,
you're producing a bunch more, you can produce it for less. That's
right,
economics 101.
right. But I remember when I was in college, and I was like a broke college kid. I had 2 jobs. I started to pull back on my Taco Bell, Del Taco, my look, Burger King used to have a two for 3 for 2 Big Mac. I mean, burger. What's that burger? I don't know the name of the burger anymore. Shit. What's the name of that burger?
Burger King is
Not
the
the Big Mac.
Whopper.
Whopper. Land
Yeah.
of the Whopper. They used to have a 3 for 2, and I would come home from work and just because $3. And then I slowly started to save in other areas because I was like, I actually feel better if I go to like a Trader Joe's and make my own burger, but get organic meat. So I do think there is
Tastes
an
so much
economical. It tastes so much better, and I think it takes discipline to tell yourself, look, the Skittles. My daughter's had a birthday party, and I had all the candy in her bag was like 35% less sugar, and all the kids there, and even one kid in particular, she hates those candies, but I think everyone else was just eating them. And I was like, do you love it? And she's like, yeah, it doesn't taste so bad because you get trained, your palate gets trained just
It
wanting a
does.
Skittles or a Snickers or
Well,
so
that's
much better
also
for you.
it can go the other way too because I love a good green juice. I think that all of the micronutrients that you get from a green juice from just cold pressed, and I'm talking like dandelion, kale, celery, spinach, all of the leafy stuff. If I order a green juice, I want it to taste like grass. I want it to taste like I walked outside in the park and just scooped up a handful of earth and just juiced
But
it.
Cassandra, me and you are weird. We're not the average. Our palate is not normal because if I want to get it in me, I don't care what it tastes like. If I know if it's like apple cider vinegar, a shot, whatever. Most people need a little pineapple, a little apple.
But that's kind of my point, though. When I started juicing, I needed pineapple, apple, pear. I needed something in my green juice. I needed an apple base. And you work up toward it. Now, I buy my daughter the green juices that have apple or pear or pineapple in them. And if I accidentally grab one from the fridge because they come in the same bottle and they look basically the same, I think, oh, green juice. And I grab it and I have it. I'm like, wow, that's sweet. So your palate changes over time. And your palate, the good news about this, so here are the pros and cons about your palate changing. The con is that it takes time and attention. And you need to take your intention and decide if you want to move toward a healthier habits as a whole, healthier behavior. But the pro is that anybody can do it because it's conditioning. So if you start with a green juice with apple, great, you're eating fruits and veggies and they're natural. That is way better than getting something out of a box. That's way better than a soda. Start there and then work toward more and more greens. And if you want some fruit in your green juice, that's just fine. It's fruit. Sugar from fruit is a free pass.
Well, that's why I tell people when they do like keto or super low carb, I'm like, fruit isn't, they're processed differently in the body than an artificial sweetener.
That is 100%
or
true.
a white sugar. So if you eat like, my daughter used to hate bananas. Now she's in a banana kick. And she's like, oh, after this sandwich, and she'll eat sandwich, cucumbers or strawberries. And she'll be like, can I please have a banana? And I'm like, yeah. And I don't like bananas because I've changed my palate so much that if I have a dessert that tastes too thick sweet, I don't know how to describe but if it's like too
texture,
hit you in the face sweet, front facing, I guess like spirit forward, but sugar forward and not flavor forward, I'm like, can't eat it. And bananas, people are like, women are like, oh, I never eat a banana. And I understand why. But I was in the airport the other day and I was like coming to New York and I'm like, banana, nuts.
Well, if your
orange.
option is a granola bar with 14 ingredients or a banana with 1 ingredient, then it's obviously going to be better for your body to process that natural ingredient. They're now coming up with all of these studies showing the harmful effects of these artificial ingredients because it's no different than if I were to pick up this tablecloth right here and just eat it. It's not designed to be processed by your body. And your body doesn't know what to do with it. Your brain doesn't know what to do with it. Your nervous system doesn't know what to do with it. And now you're not sleeping well and you don't know why. You have upset stomach, so you get on some medication, but now you're on this medication. It is just sort of this spiral if these things are regularly in your diet. And everybody's just doing the best that they can. But if you're aware of it and you know how to look at a label, then you can just start taking steps to be better and bring better foods into your home.
Right. And that's why I feel like we drink tequila because it is clean. And we're not putting
Agave
artificial
plant.
anything. It's from a planta. So it's like, I feel like you're not putting it's a plant-based. Tequila is plant-based. And I feel like this nutritional expert, so when I was in college, I'm a double major, so I have a minor in kinesiology. And I was talking to this nutritional expert who did like a speaking thing at our school. And he goes, this girl who was a little bit overweight, and she was like, I've lost 50 pounds. What is the first thing you would tell someone who has 100 pounds to lose to start doing on a or even 10 pounds. I would say this for any pounds, but she specifically asked for 100 pounds, and he said portion control. And when he said it, he's like, you usually, adults especially, eat with their eyes more than they do with their, and he had this whole diagram of the size of the stomach, and the stomach can be stretched, people. It is not something, if you give it more, it can hold more over time. It's like a muscle. It's like a sack. So he said portion control in the United States, and he was French. He said portion control in the United States. He said it blows his mind when he comes over here, because he's like, our plates are a third smaller than yours. And he was like, in the United States, more is better. And sometimes I don't know if that counts for nutrition, because he feels like being unbalanced. And he had his whole thing on veganism, which at the time was like this new kind of fad a little bit. Now it's much more normalized. And he talked about being unbalanced for women and men and what that means for your testosterone. And as you age, he said your palate should get smarter every age you get to. So he's like, you guys are all 20s, eat like shit, enjoy it. It won't last forever. You're going to get diabetes, hypertension. He's like, so every year you birth, you should eliminate a toxic thing out of your body. So if you like a lot of sugar, maybe go from Skittles, maybe do Smart Sweets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I one other thing that they have just added to labels is added sugars. And that is a really interesting thing to look at. Now, you can't just look at that number, because sometimes those added sugars might be from dates or coconuts and a natural source. So you still have to do a little bit of a deeper dive. However, if you pick up anything and it says added sugars 42 grams, you need to put that thing back down, because you can satiate your sweet tooth with something that has more nutrition, more protein, and it's more nutrient dense, and it's not just being completely buried in sugar.
I agree. I think sugar, the sugar lobby, and I'm gonna get a little technical here, but the sugar lobbyists are probably the largest lobbyists in the United States, more than tobacco, bigger than oil. And a lot of people get shocked by that, because they're like, no, oil, tobacco. And I'm like, no, because sugar is I don't know if you've ever tried to follow a diet and you start sugar's in everything. Tomato sauce, they added in tomato sauce, and I'm like, salad dressings. So when you start to get on your health journey and you're like, sugar's in everything, because it is addictive. It is more addictive, like cocaine. Mm-hmm. I mean, they give it to rats or rabbits, or I'm not a proponent of the rabbit study, but rats, I mean, do we really like rats? I don't know. I'm in New York right now. I saw a big ass rat. I'm like, my daughter, Skylar, said, look at that cat. And I'm like, that's a freaking rat.
You're like, that's your new roommate. We're in New York now.
No matter your price point in New York, the possibility of seeing a rat in your hotel, in your $10 million Soho apartment, is 8 out of 10. And so I don't mind the rat studies, the rabbit, but they did the rat study where they put like sugar droppings that led to cheese. And the first couple days, they would eat the sugar, then eat the cheese. By the end of the week study, they went 4 squares of sugar, left the cheese block. And then the cheese was collecting in the bin, because they only wanted the sugar. That's why people, when they crave so much sugar, is because you're constantly, and it has a mental aspect too. Sugar actually makes you high.
It totally does. The study that I saw was, again, a rat study, not a rabbit study, but they took 2 canisters of water in the same cage or cages, and one of them was sugar water and one of them was water with cocaine. And the rats went back and forth for the first couple days, and they tried both, and they kind of, were sussing out which was the actual source of hydration. And by the end of it, none of them were touching the cocaine water, and all of them were drinking the sugar water and had gained a bunch of weight. It's designed to be addictive. It's more addictive than cocaine.
It's I don't know, sugar. My daughter, right now, she's with grandma, and grandma is full Puerto Rican, and she believes children need guava puffs for breakfast. I don't know if you know, it's like a croissant with guava paste in it. And I'm a type of person where I'm like, no one needs that, and I draw a hard line. And so I have to be able to, release some of that food control, because I do realize grandmas are meant to have fun and just be happy. And I feel right now, my daughter is pumped. She's a few days over there, and she's like, guava puffs, Doritos. And I'm like trying not to have a conniption. And my husband's like, it's 4 days. She's gonna live. 99.9% of her diet is clean. And I do follow that. 99.9% of my diet is clean. If I go to a nice restaurant and they're like, this fried thing is the whatever is the best on the, I'm ordering it.
Well, that's
I'm not gonna
balance.
not order.
That's why you work hard at home and watch what you read your labels when you're at home, so you can enjoy yourself when you go to a one of a kind or a unique or a fun restaurant where they make something amazing that they're known for from scratch. That's how it should be. You should be able to balance it out for sure.
I think so.
Well, on that note,
yes,
we are going to cheers to wrap it up. I did like a mini refill that is now done because this was delicious. I can't wait to make this for you when you get back.
Yes, and if you're ever in New York, I'm staying at the Box Hotel. I won't be here if you ever come here.
Not the Box, the nightclub. Do not confuse the two.
The Box Hotel. It's like cute residence townhome lofts. But go see Dave. He's been here for years.
Dave or Eric?
And sorry, his name is not Eric. His name is Dave.
Okay, so shout out to Dave Eric? In Brooklyn. You said Eric. How many of those did you have before we started?
It's shrunk. He said, I'm going to make it to you. He's like, oh, a podcast? I'll make it for you a little nice. So go see Dave and ask him for this Mezcal homemade syrup. It's amazing.
Amazing. Well, you guys know what to do. Like, click, follow, subscribe, all the things that I think we are required to say at the end of this podcast. Like, follow Team Tequila Talks, Sheri Gonzalez and Cassandra Jean and Mel, and we will see you next week.
Bye.